Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pitch Side Podcast channel. I am your host, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, subscribe as usual to the channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates of these match recaps and other content on the channel. Follow me on social media. I'm at PSP on Twitter, Pitch Side Pod on Instagram. We're coming to you straight after the game between Bayern Munich and Hoffenheim ended Italian's arena 4-1. It ended for the Bavarian Giants. Revenge is done, is a dish best served cold, I guess, but revenge is done, but certainly the devil hides in the details. Once again, it's the usual drill for Bayern. They start bad, then they gain momentum. There comes a period in the second half where they're not good. The start of the first half and the second half pretty much was bad from Bayern. Hoffenheim had chances in both those periods. They scored later on in the first half, making it probably a nervous start of the second half more than anything. Against Bayern, they had more chances than probably any other team got this season against Bayern. Even the likes of Dortmund and Gladbach, Leipzig didn't have as much opportunities. I mean, as Hoffenheim did. Probably that would be an exaggeration because mostly, the stats and the momentum, the sort of the sort of story of the game doesn't tell exactly that Hoffenheim should have a lot of chances, but they did because Bayern wanted to have such situation happen to them. The start again of the first half and the second half was bad. Hoffenheim had early chances that they missed and probably regret that now, that they lost 4-1. Boateng opened the score inside 32 minutes, given Bayern a lead that wasn't comfortable until the second goal by Thomas Müller, and even so, the response was immediate from Hoffenheim by a goal from Kramaric coming from a cross from the left-hand side, which is a weakness today for Bayern. Alphonso Davies hasn't regained exactly his form, and I don't know why he didn't start with Lucas Hernandez if he has him on the list. Why didn't start with Lucas Hernandez, a more informed player, I think, on that left-hand side, rather than Alphonso Davies, who's not exactly having his best period in the game. Marc Roca had a decent game, starting for the absent Javi Martinez and Leon Goretzka primarily, who are absent because of COVID. Koeman and Gnabry had a decent game up front. Lewandowski, have a sub-bar game, I would say. He didn't have a lot of chances and didn't have a lot to feed on in the game. He had one goal, pretty much 2 or 3 other shots aside from that. Not really something that you would associate with someone who wants to break records in the Bundesliga. Bayern picked up the momentum, picked up the speed in the second half. Pretty much for an hour or so the game was poised, and then Bayern moved and switched through the gears after the 60 minutes or so, scoring 2 other goals in the second half to be precise, and making it 4-1. Scene of the game pretty much. It was a nervous ending also for Bayern in the last 5 minutes or so. Hoffenheim made offensive changes. They wanted to make the score look as tight as possible, although even at 4-1 it isn't the most perfect of Bayern performances. It was even sloppier than usual, I would argue, and you don't need these kind of performances. You need to chop off this kind of sloppy actions, sloppy sort of mistakes that you make, losing the ball a couple of times in the midfield. Again, the left side was a weakness today, and Alphonso Davies didn't have the greatest of games. I thought he should have been substituted for Lucas Hernandez. Marc Roca had a decent game, but again, being booked unnecessarily, which is going to be probably a trade for him every time he plays for Bayern. And overall, I think it was for an hour or so, it was slower than usual, despite the possession, despite the domination and the attempts. It was slower than usual from Bayern, but they picked up through the gears and they eventually won 4-1, and they made it look comfortable, at least visually, if you look at the score. Revenge is done. The debts are paid from the 4-1 loss early in the season, and this is a good momentum boosting kind of victory. Take you 10 points potentially by the end, of course, of the fixture if Leverkusen do not manage to defeat Leipzig later on in the Bundesliga. So I think the Bayern games are starting to sound a lot similar, and with the title getting closer and closer, and it's just, I think, by this point it's a matter of time before we say Bayern are the champions of the Bundesliga, so probably the focus should be ahead to the bigger picture, the Champions League now, the biggest title that is left now on the calendar. There's a FIFA Club World Cup coming in between, so that should be important to win as well. And of course on the horizon, a Champions League game that certainly is much trickier than anybody give it the right to be. Overall, again, a good win. Not with the most perfect of performances, not with the greatest of performances, still some kinks there that should be fixed from Bayern for the rest of the season, and of course again for the Champions League, but it was good enough to win. Hoffenheim had a decent game, again for an hour or so it was very poised, but after the 60-minute mark, I think Hoffenheim physically dropped a little bit and allowed Bayern to shift towards second, third and fourth gear eventually, almost a fifth, but the goal was chalked off for an offside on Sane. So that's it for this match recap. I was your boy, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on this video, consider subscribing to the channel if you're new, enable notifications to receive all the updates. Follow me on social media, I'm at PSP on Twitter, Pitch Sidepod on Instagram, and until the next time, which would be the review for Arsenal vs United later on, I will see you soon. Goodbye.